Okay, we'll just give it a couple of more minutes as I see attendees are starting to flow in, and then we'll start.
Sounds great.
Kathy, could you also give me permission to record on my computer as well? Okay, I think we're just right about at the time where we should begin. Again, hello everyone, and welcome to our Incubator Connector webinar. I'm Levan Beridze, Consul General of Georgia in San Francisco. It is a pleasure to be hosting you all today for this webinar, which I hope will be one of many. Before we get into our event, I would like to touch upon a few housekeeping points. I would like to ask anyone that's not speaking to keep their microphones muted. Also, I would like to let everyone know that this webinar will be recorded for further distribution on our website and social media. And also, after our speakers present today, we will have a Q&A session where the attendees will have the opportunity to ask questions to our speakers using the question box located on the screen. And we strongly encourage our participants to ask a lot of questions or as much as we can fit within the time frame. Now, I will begin by thanking all of you for expressing your interest in our virtual conference, and a special gratitude to the U.S. Commercial Service of the International Trade Administration and their whole team for co-organizing this event with us, and for the continuous support that they provide to Georgia. I would also like to highlight the tremendous support that the commercial attaché at the U.S. Embassy in Ankara provides to Georgia and the region. We have very interesting and knowledgeable speakers representing the leading incubators and accelerators throughout different states joining us today. However, before I introduce our speakers, I would like to ask the Director of the U.S. Commercial Service in San Francisco, Douglas Wallace, who has been on the forefront of promoting international trade and commerce through facilitating export support and further strengthening the ties between the U.S. companies and the world, to say a few words. Doug, please, the Zoom is yours.
Thank you so much, Levan. I want to thank you personally. I want to thank your entire team at the Georgian Consulate, and I want to thank all of the Georgian startups on the call today. Let me tell you, I want to tell all the Georgian startups today that you have a terrific asset in the form of Levan Beridze, your Consul General in San Francisco, as you pursue the growth of your companies in the United States. He's such a positive, enthusiastic guy, and I'm so glad to join the program with you today. I really also just want to express my appreciation for the courage for all the Georgian startups. All of us know the pressures that you're under, the short timeline, the huge decisions you have to make in such a short amount of time. And I want to emphasize that we are here to help you as you navigate that. I'm going to put into the chat a California tech guide that we recently did with a partner, which really provides all foreign tech startups very practical information about how to approach California and how to approach the United States. So that can hopefully be a good resource for you. And then I too want to thank all of the U.S. incubators that have joined the call today. This is, as exporters, as U.S. exporters, I want you to know that you have a huge amount of tools at your disposal through our agency, the U.S. Commercial Service, as you pursue opportunities and try to make those introductions like we're making today. So please reach out to us also after the call and let us help you. Let us help you. And then I too also just wanted to encourage everybody to ask questions today. This is a great opportunity to really understand the incubators that are presenting and what they offer and how you can take advantage of their great services. And then finally, I would love to invite Andrew Glass to come on screen and introduce himself and the unique role that he plays in the region to assist Georgian startups and the whole U.S.-Georgian commercial relationship. Andrew, take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doug, for that kind introduction. Good morning to everyone joining in the U.S. and good evening to all those joining from Georgia. As Doug mentioned, I am Andrew Glass, and I'm based here in Ankara, Turkey, though I am a San Francisco Bay Area native. And I work very closely with our colleagues at U.S. Embassy Tbilisi to increase bilateral trade and investment between the U.S. and Georgia. And to all the Georgian startups that are joining, you are really part of a business ecosystem that is incredibly attractive to U.S. businesses looking to export to Georgia and invest in Georgia. And likewise, I hope you see the services and the support provided by the accelerators joining today to be valuable inputs into your businesses. And please think of the U.S. as a premier destination for your investment and expansion. Of course, I think this synergy makes sense as the U.S. and Georgia are 6 and 7 respectively on the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index. So we all foresee great potential for cooperation. So very excited to hear today's discussion and look forward to all of the mutual success to come. Thank you so much, Doug, and to Levon for the invitation.
Thank you, Doug. Andrew, thank you very much for the kind words and a great intro. We are very lucky to have you. I'm looking forward to our collaboration on exciting initiatives to further strengthen the partnership between the private sectors of our countries, for sure. As all of you know, being on the forefront of innovation and tech development, the United States stands out as one of the leading destinations for startups around the world in pursuit of knowledge, best practices, and the opportunities for growth. As for Georgia, the ICT sector has been targeted by the government of Georgia as the leading sector of interest, investing heavily in the creation of the innovation and technology ecosystem in the country, which in turn supports an effective development of tech startups, as well as strengthens the overall business environment. Now, the rise in emerging tech startups in Georgia, heavily increases the need to utilize vast resources available in the countries, such as the United States, which, as I mentioned before, provides one of the best startup and innovation ecosystems around the world. The mechanisms and tools available within this ecosystem have been extremely important in further accelerating the development of small companies into large multinational corporations. Now, vast knowledge of companies, incubators, and accelerators in this country is an invaluable asset that possesses the ability to help companies reach their full potential. The opportunities that lie within these networks could be attained through multiple platforms, programs, and services that are within the reach of companies, not only within the US, but companies around the world and startups from Georgia, for example. Now, with this in mind, today's speakers will share with us their knowledge and expertise on best business practices and available resources that will be accessible to foreign companies to most effectively develop their products and expand internationally, especially on the US market. I'm very pleased to have such great speakers with us today. Let me introduce our speakers, and then we will allow them to present and speak about their companies. We have Joyce Haven with us, who is the Startup Ecosystem Manager at the Runway Innovation Hub. Runway is a Silicon Valley-based innovation company accelerating the success of global innovators and entrepreneurs. It provides innovation consulting services for corporations and flexible workspace, mentorship, and community for startups. In addition, Runway creates and runs bespoke accelerators, incubators, and custom executive education programs. We have with us Tara Spalding, Managing Director of Boom Startups. Founded in 2011 and based in Salt Lake City, Utah, Boom Startup Accelerator is a global mentorship-driven angel stage program for startups. It is an online inclusive accelerator assisting first-time founders with business maturity guidance, investment preparation, capital structuring, and investment strategies. Boom Startup's goal is to be the most inclusive accelerator in the world by offering most of the programs for free and also online to encourage widespread participation, especially from founders who are under-resourced or lack network support. We have with us Serdar Turak, CEO of SVI. In one sentence, I think it says it all: an entrepreneurial ecosystem, a one-stop destination for all the resources that one needs to launch and grow in Silicon Valley. We have Brent Whitgen with us, co-founder and CEO of Brazen Bio. Brazen Bio advances human health by helping scientists become CEOs. I love that quote. It runs a 12-week in-person incubator program with state-of-the-art lab facilities and accommodation in Los Angeles. Founded by longtime friends, Sean Carbonell and Brent Whitgen, who have been on the startup and corporate sides of industry for decades. We have Arsh Haque with us, Director of Portland State Business Accelerator. The Portland State University Business Accelerator is an entrepreneurial community in Oregon, home to promising technology, green, and bioscience startups, including spinouts from all major Oregon research universities. The accelerator provides offices and lab spaces, plus a menu of services designed with fast-growing startup needs in mind. For the past 5 years, accelerator companies raised more angel and venture capital than any other address in the state of Oregon. And we have with us Chris Burry, co-CEO of US Market Access Center, which has been providing international tech companies with fast and successful access to the US and global markets via Silicon Valley. Now, I'm also happy to say that the Market Access Center and Chris personally is very actively engaged with Georgia and work with the startups to accelerate their expansion to the US market. So all of you, welcome everyone. And now let me ask each of the companies to speak briefly about their mission and to share with us the benefits of the programs and expertise they offer, after which we will allow some time for the Q&A session. Joyce, may I ask you to kick us off, please?
As soon as I can unmute.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you. Runway is a community focused on early stage seed to Series A startups. We have 3 lines of business that we work with. We have a corporate consulting arm, our corporate innovation services arm, which helps corporations learn to work with startups, or also if they have a specific problem they're working on, then we help them find the right startups to solve that problem. Also market insight reports, things of that nature. My piece of the business involves supporting startups kind of on the ground. So we have flexible workspace and we take a very community-based approach to that and are very serious about that. we're not just butts and seats. We spend a fair amount of time really supporting each of our companies at where they are and trying to figure out what exactly that it is that they want next. And then we also do events and programming. So those include things like bespoke acceleration programs or incubators. We could do sort of basic networking or workshop events as well. And then, as mentioned, executive education. So does that help?
Yeah,
Great.
for sure. Thank you very much. Let me ask Tara Spalding from Boom Startup Accelerator to speak to us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm gonna just quickly show my screen. I have a bit more information to share, and it's a pleasure to be here. Hold on a quick second. There we go. So my name is Tara Spalding. It's a pleasure to meet you all. I'm actually based in Salt Lake City, Utah. Utah is a fantastic location because we are not only known for our snow, but we've also grown significantly over the last decade. In fact, Utah has grown over 18% in the last 10 years. And we also have a very low unemployment rate, which is at 2%. So we have a lot of people coming to our state. As Boom Startup and being an accelerator, our focus is to grow these businesses and create them to be sustainable as well as capital efficient. Boom Startup, as mentioned before, is an online accelerator. And we do work with the World Trade Center Utah, as well as the U.S. Commercial Services in Utah as well, because we understand that being an international and global company is often a very critical part of startups' growth. Let me quickly introduce you to a little bit of a history. The summary of this is that we have transformed over the past decade. In particular, when we were bought by Assure back in 2019, we really changed our focus to become a pre-seed funding, as well as this open and inclusive structure versus what conventional accelerators have been, where it's just fund driven. And so this has actually created a really neat economic growth opportunity for pre-seed companies, especially those that are interested in doing businesses with Utah-based companies or extending their business into Utah itself. Our mission is to work with 1,000 founders this year, and I'm pleased to report that we've clocked in over 940. And it's not just, capturing their information, it's actually participating in our open and online programs that Levon mentioned earlier. 74% of these companies are in fact from the United States, but the remaining are not. In fact, 7% are from the Asian continent and 2% are Eurasian companies, and we have a couple, in fact, from Georgia. I would love to see this number increase. We are platform powered, and we're constantly tracking the participation of companies, so you can come in at any sort of stage in growth to basically get the right feedback and suggestions. Our programs are categorized into 4 groups, and these are all globally offered. The first is Pitch Up, which is a pitch competition. We host this twice a year. There's cash and services as prizes. I strongly encourage everyone from Georgia to participate in it. If not, enter into the contest, certainly watch it because it's very, very entertaining. We also have Open Up. Open Up are expert-led workshops. And oftentimes they're about an hour in length, and they are, of course, online. It's a really great way to get introduced to new solutions to make your business more sustainable, as well as prepare them for funding. Now, Rise Up is where things get fun. These are online 1-week sprints that are solving very specific business programs. One of these offerings that we're going into is a fantastic way to break into the US market, such as how do you incorporate in the United States? What is the banking situation, and what's the go-to-market support that's expected when you're running a US company? And then last and most importantly, that I get questions on all day long is like, how do I get funded in America or in Utah? And that's our Amplify Up program. Diving into Amplify Up, it's really about funding preparedness, diligence, and direct investor support. Unlike other accelerators, our program is open so that our local investment community can participate in this investment round alongside of us as an accelerator. We teach you as a founder how to raise the seed, how to prepare for this round, and also how to take care of your investors so that your following rounds make sense. Now, as mentioned before, we are a global accelerator. And the other aspect I didn't mention is that we do work with companies across all industries and with different business models. And that's because their thematics are really around funding and financial aptitude. So we're all about education and communicating what exactly does your business need to do on the books so that it can be sustainable and eventually raise capital. Now, this is an eye chart, I understand, but it exemplifies how we are a different accelerator than most. And it's a really fun way to look at how we're turning the model on our head by becoming open and inclusive. And as Levon mentioned, that's our goal. Now, our promise to you is that we will help your business grow. We will help you figure out how to become sustainable, especially in the US market, and is a great way to understand the capital creation and attainment in the United States as well as in Utah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you very much. As a matter of fact, I had a couple of meetings with the representatives from Utah a few days ago, and we're definitely planning a trip. So I'll make sure to reach out next time we're there.
That would be fantastic.
It's part of the states that we cover as the Consulate General of Georgia here, a part of the 19 states that we cover.
Well, and we also just got a couple of feet of snow, so please bring your skis.
Wonderful, and we love skiing, so we might we might enjoy that as well.
We like skiing out here too, as well as business growth. So
of course, of course, I know that. Thank you very much. And may I ask Serdar Turek from SVI to present to us?
Yeah, also I do have a presentation that I would like to share with you guys.
Sure.
Let me share my screen. Yep. Hi, my name is Serdar, and I'm the CEO of SVI. As Levon said, SVI is a one-stop destination for all the resources that one needs to launch and grow in Silicon Valley. And our ecosystem consists of a vibrant office space and a community of mentors, investors, and businesses. And SVI started its life as an academy, which is focusing in training programs for entrepreneurs and founders. And then SVI Academy has evolved from a training company with new investments from strategic investors, such as one of them is the Sador, a multinational IT services firm, and located in more than 38 countries, and at Silicon Valley, a VC partner from Mighty Capital. And after these strategic investors, we have started to offer even more besides the training programs, including business development, corporate innovation, and the academy and the accelerator, and a hub, a co-working space in Silicon Valley. So SVI Hub is a co-working space based in Sunnyvale. And since April 2018, we do have more than 50 startup companies at our own premises and more than 50,000 online members. And we do offer different, and this is the typical co-working space, we do offer like different options such as open flex seating, dedicated desks, and private offices. And besides the hub, our second service is the academy. This one is the training programs, as I said, and they are based in two major categories. One of them is the multi-day programs, and the other one is single-day events. And SVI, we have been like hosting and organizing single-day training sessions, workshops, and networking events. And SVI has been one of the most active incubators within the region. Before the pandemic, we hosted like more than 100 events within a year. And these are a few photos from our pitch events, networking events, and so on and so forth. And this is another training program under the SVI. And SVI is the exclusive partner of UCSC, University of California, Santa Cruz Silicon Valley Extension, for their recently launched, Silicon Valley Startup Series. And we have been providing all the topics, instructors, and contents for this series, and attendees can get a UCSC certificate from these programs. And again, under the multi-day programs, we do also offer a bootcamp program. And within this program, we try to provide the actionable insights for the attendees. And one of the major source for the founders is network. So we do offer like 25 to 30 different speakers within these programs, which is a great opportunity for the attendees to meet with those, the mentors and advisors. And these are a few photos again from our previous bootcamp sessions. We hosted like groups from, again, Saudi Arabia, Korea, Uruguay. So basically all over the world, since Silicon Valley is an attractive place, attractive location. And our other services, the accelerator, our accelerator program is a little bit different than the other ones. So there are no batches. We accept the companies one by one. And we assign them, once they are accepted, a dedicated chief advisor and a team of coaches, basically. Oops, sorry. And our next services, business development services. While we have been hosting these like the bootcamp programs, what we have seen is, especially for the international startups, coming here is expensive. You have to provide for the accommodation, you have to pay for the training, and then the other things. So we have realized that the international startups are a little bit different than the local startups. Usually, in most cases, they were more mature companies, and they are more interested in execution, getting into the United States market, since they do have like existing clients, existing customers, and existing products. So they ask us to come up with a business development service. So we are providing this business development service. What we do is we interview with the company, we understand what they need for, and then we pair them with a business development partner, a seasoned guy, who can create the clear roadmap and who can create the business development strategy for this particular company. And after that, we assign them a business development representative, a kind of lower level guy, who will do the execution of this kind of strategy. So they got like the seasoned mentor and a dedicated execution. Everything is transparent. And within this model, they get physical presence in the United States, which is crucial again for the international startups and companies. And our next service is corporate innovation. This one is for C-level executives from large corporations, and they attend to the tailor-made programs. And we, again, tailor the programs to align the group's needs. And they learn the industry trends, they attend to workshop series, and also they meet with some hand-picked startups. And we are partnering with Stanford University Leadership Garage for this service. And we hosted like individuals from Roche Pharmaceuticals, Digital Academy, Porsche, Metro, and many other corporations. And these are a few photos from this corporate innovation service. So again, in a summary, SVI offers like the hub, co-working space, accelerator, business development, academy, and corporate innovation for the large corporations. Thank you so much.
Sergio, thank you very much. So you weren't exaggerating when you said it's a one-stop shop for everything, right? I mean, it provides all kinds of resources to the companies in Silicon Valley. Wonderful, wonderful to hear the presentation. I just had a one question. So how many companies do you have, if you know, that are foreign companies that are trying to access the market here?
I mean, typically, especially for the business development services, right now we are working with companies 5 to 10 actually.
Okay.
So it's very, selective service, and we provide, a lot of hand holding.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, it's very, customized. We understand the company's needs, and the ultimate goal over there is finding the right partner, which is crucial for the success of the strategy, because this person should know the company, this person should know the industry very well. And we are trying to find individuals who has done, the market entry, who has done business development several times.
Mm-hmm.
So, we can get the success that we want.
You select the right person to kind of mentor and drive these companies into success, pretty much, into expansion.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And do they one more just do the companies have to be here, or is it virtually as well? And I think
that's the beauty of it. I mean, they can manage everything virtually. So because what I have seen, especially for the international folks, getting into the United States market virtually is kind of a little bit hard. So you have to have some physical presence. So this business development representative and the business development partner is becoming their, physical presence in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So this founder, this international company, oversees and manages everything, mm-hmm. while this person executes the idea. So again, I don't want to get into the too details, but
we can do that during the Q&A if we'll have more kind of details to get into that. But wonderful. Thank you very much. I think it's a great resource from all of you that our companies are listening into. So, okay. Brent, may I ask you to talk about Brazen Bio?
Absolutely, Levon. So can I try to share my screen here? Is that coming through?
Yeah, so that if you share the screen on the bottom where it says share screen, that should come in.
It's like I'm having a tough time with that right now.
It's all right. So on the bottom, there should be raise hand, share screen, chat, Q&A. So if you hit share screen, that should just pop up, because everybody has the is authorized to do that through Zoom.
I see it there, then I get a security and privacy link. So nevertheless, I'll share the slides later if that's better.
Brent, what you can do is, if you'd like to email your presentation to me, I could try to share it from my side if you'd like me to.
And you can do the same to us, so we can set that up within a minute.
Yeah, why don't I do that? I'll email it over. Should someone else jump in, or do you want me to just keep talking?
I had that problem as well, just FYI.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, that's not, I had a presentation, but I just.
So we can actually go back to that. So if you can email it to me or Doug here, and then we can put it through. So Brent, okay, let's go to Arsh, and then we can come back when we have the presentation set. Arsh, could you please share with us the university's perspective and how the educational institution allows companies to become part of this amazing and vast network that the universities provide?
Yeah, absolutely. Just to make sure, just because there's been the difficulties. Can you see the screen and can you hear me?
Yes, we're good.
Grand. So I'm Arsh Haq, and I'm the director at the Portland State Business Accelerator, which is affiliated with Portland State University, and we are the oldest and largest accelerator in Oregon. There's a few things on the agenda I'd like to walk through. So first, just sort of go through our track record to get a sense of who we are and what we've done in the past. why startups love us, so what it sort of differentiates us and why our startups came to us and enjoyed their time. What's next? So what's our vision moving forward and why are we doing presentations like this? And then Q&A after the rest of the presenters go. So as far as the track record goes, one way to think about it is, so we started in 2004, but really became active in 2007. Since that time, we've worked with 140 startups and 70% of those are still active. So not really a churn and burn, but really curate and get startups that are likely to grow and sustain. And they've done very well in their time with us. So in their time with us, they've raised $187 million and generated $114 million in revenue. And so we really focus on that pre-seed to Series B stage, and so have, at least on average, had reasonably high success. To give you a sort of snapshot of our last year, well, 2019 being the most representative last year that we had. For startups that were with us during that time, if you looked at the beginning of the time they were in our space to where they were, they experienced 335% in revenue growth. And that year they had generated, spent $12.5 million on their employees and generated $100 million in economic activity. And so it's not just sort of big picture, this is all driven by one company, but year after year, they really see success and impact on themselves as well as their community. To give you a snapshot of some of the notable successes that we've had over the year. And this will also give you a sense of the types of companies that we work with. One was JAMA Software. And so this is a project management software. If you're building complex products that require software, they can help you go from inception to conceptualization to heading the market. I think the last round was in 2018, where they had $200 million. And so that was one of the unicorns that is still private. A couple of weeks ago, Absci went to the New York Stock Exchange and rang the bell. So they hit $2 billion in market cap. And they're a biotechnology company. So synthetic biology, building new medicines. And on site, and I'll get to this later, we have wet labs. So we really got to see them grow from 5 people in a small lab space to them leaving our space when they were too large and going on to big and great things. And one other that happened, I think in the last couple of weeks, was a SPAC merger. So ESS, which I think is Energy Storage Systems, builds long duration batteries. And after they had the SPAC merger, are also at above a $2 billion valuation. And that gives you a sense of the types of companies we work with, which is a lot of deep tech. So with our affiliation with the university, we have a lot of faculty with labs that try to commercialize those properties. And that's the types of problems we do well, is the expertise of tackling not only hard execution problems, but where the product itself is a really complex and interesting animal. Give you a sense of what startups like about us and sort of what differentiates us on the market. One, they really like our space. So we have a 40,000 square foot building. And some of the things that startups like with us is that it's a really flexible lease. So we check in every 6 months if that needs to change, so that as your company grows, you're not committed and sort of have to take the big bet on, well, how large do I think I'm going to be in the next 3 years? You can go from a small co-working space or a desk to a small office to a full floor, and scale up and down sort of with the woes and victories of the company. And we also have 2,700 square feet of wet lab space. So if you're a biotech company or have sort of those chemical needs, we're there and we regularly apply for grants to sort of customize it. So if you need a new hood, we'll put an application and help make that happen. One of the other parts people like is the university affiliation. So over time, we've had 1,350 students engaged in capstones and internship, often where the university is sort of subsidizing those or their MBA program is subsidizing it, and countless collaborations with faculty, so that if you need that expertise of a faculty member or you need access to the journals of the library, we can offer a lot of those more academic resources. And finally, people really like the community. It is almost surprising to me because my job is often building management and figuring out like how large is our community, but people just like the people who are down the hall. So pre-pandemic, and we're getting back to this number, there's usually around 200 people on site. There's CEO councils, and a lot of our success actually doesn't come from what we do exactly, but the people we bring on site, so that there's always someone just ahead of you. So if you're at a Series A and you're trying to figure out how, now that I have this product, do I scale in the following vertical, there's probably someone down the hall that you can just ask and where they've done the same. And there's a really strong sense of camaraderie, along with all the other traditional programming like demo days and investor Q&As, that kind of thing. And finally, what's next? So one question that's come up before now is how many companies internationally have you worked with, and sort of how has that operated in the past? And we don't have a strong track record there. We've had, I think, about 5 or so international startups, and we've had a few acquisitions from abroad, but we're really hoping to transition to that moving forward. And there's sort of 2 reasons why. One, we're hoping to lead the charge for founder well-being, because like I myself as a former founder who's seen companies to exit and got to see a lot of them in California, realized that that's really critical for founder success on an ecosystem level. Because some of the things that we don't often talk a lot about in startup ecosystems is the company that had a $30 million exit because the founder burnt out, and they could have built it at $300 million, but they didn't. Or the founder who built a $1 billion company and then retired instead of having a 40-year career of building those types of companies because they burned themselves out over 6 years. With our standing as a university, we really want to lead the charge in the research around founder well-being and then also bring it home. Because one thing I found in Oregon, which if you're not familiar with the geography, is just north of California and Silicon Valley and just south of Seattle, Washington, is that I found a very different type of unicorn here, which is in California in my decade there. I met maybe 3 happy founders, tons of successful, brilliant founders, but like 2 or 3, and I certainly wasn't one of them. And in Oregon, like 4 ABSCI, 4 ESS, a lot of them are living good lives, and it's unbelievable to me. So whatever that resource is, I want to tap into and bring to others. And in particular, what we want to do is make room for everyone at the table. Portland, Oregon is not known as the startup capital of the world, but we still produce unicorns. And we know that a lot of the best ideas are the ones that get overlooked. And so we want to build that pipeline not only locally, but since we figured out how to do that within a smaller town that is more affordable, but also has less of the extravagances of our northern and southern neighbors, we want to build those pipelines elsewhere. I built companies in Guatemala and India and in France, and I know sort of the global landscape of a lot of those ideas get overlooked. And so we are really excited to try and build more of those pipelines looking forward. And that's about it. Happy to have Q&A later on. For now, Portland State Business Accelerator, oldest and largest one in Oregon.
Thank you, Arsh. Thank you. It really shows how the resources of the educational kind of ecosystem help scale up the access of the startups and how it helps kind of develop these startups and help them expand. Wonderful. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing your program expand more to the international companies, as you mentioned, and we're looking forward to working with you for sure. Thank you for the presentation. Okay, let me now, Joyce, may I ask, so I think we have the presentations. I think Doug received the presentation and will share the screen if his security allows it. So we'll see.
Okay, great. So let's start with Joyce. I'm going to pull up Joyce's.
Thank you guys for being so patient and helpful.
No, of course.
Challenges.
Great. Just one sec here. Okay, let's see.
And I have Brent's presentation as well because he sent it to me. So, let me know if.
Here we go.
Okay, let me see. There we go.
Right.
Doug's worked.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Is that full screen?
No, you should just double tap it. Or not. See, go here. Do the on top left. It says just the free view presentation. I guess right here. Upward there's a playing icon next to the saving icon, right there. Up.
Oh, sorry.
Or slideshow, or hit slideshow.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
There we go. From the beginning.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay.
Take it away, Joyce.
Thank you so much. As mentioned before, Runway Innovation Hub. We are located in beautiful downtown San Francisco. Next slide, please. In the heart of San Francisco's tech ecosystem, obviously we have a concentration of people and resources and prior to pandemic and now coming back events that help make our area really the epicenter of tech and entrepreneurship in the world, I think. We recently moved from Midtown San Francisco down to Spear Street, which is near the Embarcadero. And so we have beautiful views of Salesforce Park out one side of the building and views of the Bay and the Bay Bridge out the other side of our workspace. Next slide, please. As I mentioned previously, these are sort of the 3 lines of business that we work with, and sort of a little bit more about these. And I believe you guys are going to be getting the slides post event. Am I correct?
Yes. So what we're going to do is we're going to compile one file for everybody with the presentations and send it to all the attendees that were there, that are here. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Next slide. So these are some numbers that we're really proud of in our history. We've been around for a long time in Silicon Valley terms, since 2013. The numbers actually, these numbers click up every day. So we had a acquisition that needs to be added onto this as well. One of our companies, Fishbowl app, just got acquired by Glassdoor. So I know that the acquisition number isn't current as of this morning. We have a lot of global reach with the folks in our space, 24 countries, 10 geographic regions, a number of industries. We're industry agnostic. We really do value diversity, and that's one of our sort of key drivers over the last couple of years. It's become more and more important. We see a lot more success with diverse teams. Next slide, please. So here's a little timeline of some of the things that have happened since 2013. And this year we're going to have to add to this again, which is great. We've been listed as a top incubator and accelerator by Built-in SF. And we're members of the National Venture Capital Association. I can't speak this morning. I'm so sorry, guys. Next slide. We partner with a number of organizations. These are just 3 examples to really help drive success for our members and for the companies that go through our programs. We feel like the network of folks that we can introduce people to and driving community is really important. Next slide. So this is a little bit about how, all of the places that we sort of spread our net and the way the ecosystem looks for us. Next slide. So again, the key cornerstones are that we have great events, we have a beautiful functional workspace, and we have a very collaborative community. Next slide. One of the things we've been working on and we're launching right now is a kind of specialized incubator focused on fundraising. The thing that we hear over and over again, even from companies coming out of very prestigious accelerator programs, is that they still don't have a good playbook for how to do fundraising. And they're frequently sort of stuck in a rut. And so we built this program to help address those issues. Next slide. Again, we create very bespoke programs. We want to make sure that we have clear methodologies and clear path forward for the folks that are going through programs and for our clients and members. Next slide. And then the next few slides, actually, I'll let you guys look through those when, as you get the slide deck. This is just giving you a little bit of information. Doug, you can actually cycle through the last couple of slides quickly. These are just informations about who our programs team is. the background that we have, and a little bit more about maybe how we can help you.
All right.
Okay.
Joyce, thank you very much. I'm glad that worked out for us. It is very interesting, and we would like to learn about some of the programs that you are developing and launching right now. So yeah, if you can say a few words about that.
Yeah, so FlightPath is the big one that's sort of focused on our ecosystem. We're also working with, I can't announce the name of the country, but we're developing an accelerator for a country in Western Europe that will launch in the next probably month or two. And then we also are working with a major university in California to develop programs for their administrative staff as well. So a lot of things really run the gamut, and we enjoy that process.
All right, wonderful. I'm sure a lot of companies that are attending today, and then when we'll share this information, we'll want to get in touch with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask Brent?
Yes, do you
Are we
have
good
the
to go?
slides?
All right, Doug, are you going to put it up or should I?
Let's see.
While you put it up there, I'll just say, Brazen Bio, we're very pleased to be here, Levon. And personally, I want to say greetings to everyone in Georgia. It's on the top of my list of other countries to visit. My in-laws are from the region. I love your culture, I love your cuisine, and I love your people. So one day I really look forward to meeting you in person in your home.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much, Brent. Nice to hear. And like you said, you know, I hope to have the opportunity to host you there while I'm there. So
fantastic. All right. So we are Brazen Bio. Next slide, please. And as Levon mentioned, let's take it one back here. I'll just jump in and emphasize, we advance human health by helping scientists become CEOs. This is really our premise. We know that scientists know best. They know the technology, they're most passionate about it. To bring it forward, to bring it through research and development, to bring it to market, they're going to be the most passionate to pull it all the way through. Keeping well-being at the forefront of these founders is important to us, and making them success for their passion is what we're all about. Next slide, please. So we ourselves, Brazen Bio, are a startup. We first incorporated ourselves in May. Sean, my co-founder, and I have known each other for over 20 years. He's been doing the startup side of things. I've been on the corporate big pharma side. In fact, we have a podcast interview right now, which is why he's unable to make it. So we are a startup ourselves. We're focused on biotech because that's all we know. We're running our incubator program. Right now, we're in the middle of our first cohort. So I'll just ask you to back up one more slide there when you get a chance. Can you still hear me okay?
yeah, I think Doug.
Yes.
All right. So let's take it back a couple more. There we go. Our thesis is really around the massive.
Can we mute Doug? Can you mute your microphone, please?
Call from the wireless call. Call from.
Well, maybe I'll just keep talking over you.
No.
So,
Right. Thanks.
really, the problem here is that biotech startups don't have access to laboratories. And you can see right behind me here, this is the laboratory space we operate out of in beautiful Los Angeles, Harbor UCLA campus, Lundquist Institute, state-of-the-art, $2 million worth of instruments and equipment. The biotech founder has a unique situation where they're unable to just plug into a Wi-Fi and get started. They need reagents, resources, instruments, equipment, et cetera. And that's what we provide. Go over to the next slide. So the next slide here is the entrance to the building where we operate out of. I'm sitting in the Lundquist now. It's on the campus of a major university, so we get a lot of overlap with the academics nearby, the hub here with the biotech space. It's a beautiful area to be in, and again, state of the art. So the laboratory access is really a differentiator with our program that we provide all of the companies who join us. We'll go over to the next slide. So the next slide here, this is really an overview of Brazen Bio. Sean and I have been fortunate enough to build a team of senior fellows, we're calling them. This is really our secret sauce. So the companies who join us spend the majority of their time with Sean and I working through our program. It's a 12-week incubator, weekly office hours, founders dinners every Tuesday night, and access to our senior fellows who are industry veterans, subject matter experts. They're collaborators, they're experts in their field we've known and worked with over the years. In particular, I'll just point out our business advisory board, John Bookvar, who we've also known for over 20 years, a fantastic person, surgical scientist, and Lisa Hale, who's in fact handled the intellectual property for over 9 Nobel laureates. So we're really stacked here with expertise across the board, all the way from research development through marketing, commercialization, legal support, incorporation, et cetera. We can go on to the next slide. This is really how we're set up here. So we, in the core there, you see the Brazen Fellows. These are the companies, the founders who join us. So they come into our program as fellows, and then we wrap around them this layer of infrastructure where you can see at the top, there's the laboratory. And then we provide funding for the resources in terms of reagents, consumables, equipment, et cetera, to run their experiments in the laboratory. And we provide housing. So we are, in fact, the world's first biotech launch house. We had our open house event yesterday. There's some press footage on that. I'd be happy to show it to you later. So the accommodation is essential because we're an in-person incubator. Our teams came from New York State, from San Francisco. When they come into town, we want them to hit the ground running and not spending time finding accommodation or housing. So we provide that with the world's first biotech launch house. And then there's a services layer you can see wrapped around on top with the legal support from the IP, as well as the incorporation side. There's the corporate support to business development, in fact. And then there's obviously the operations side of it is getting things done. So wrapped all the way around the perimeter there are our senior fellows we mentioned on the previous page. These are, for example, yesterday we had a regulatory question. One of our regulatory fellows picked up the call, answered some questions to our fellows. They had a great chat, got a lot of input, and then we were able to move on. We've been able to tap into our resources, our network, who are in fact also global across the entire value chain of drug, device, and diagnostic discovery and development. Next slide, please. So again, just to wrap up here in summary, Brazen Bio, our fellowship program, our incubator allows for IP creation, reducing to practice, and getting that patent filing in place with our legal team, and then startup and launch of the enterprise. In a nutshell, it's really that simple. It's not brain surgery, as my co-founder will tell you. He's in fact a neurosurgical dropout. And we're proud to be launching Brazen Bio. We're in the midst of our first cohort right now. We just called the applicants for the second round. The next slide, I'll tell you a little bit more about us. And you can see here, our launch house off to the left has been featured as our incubator program at .LA, making scientists into CEOs. That's what we're all about. Here you can see the team. Sean with Wes, one of our founders who came in to speak on a Tuesday evening, a successful biotech founder himself, and then our cohort of founders wrapped around him. So this is a small team. It's our first cohort. We're going to grow from here, open up for applicants to our next program, which will begin next year. And then I'll take over to the next slide, wrap up, and simply ask you, are you brazen? Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much for this presentation. I mean, it's great to hear that right from the slogan that you're using. I mean, the people that create the product, you know, and are in love with it and want to see it succeed. And what you're doing is you're preparing them for the business processes and preparing them to lead the company instead of just being the creators of the product, which is amazing. And I think a lot of biotech companies from Georgia will take a note here and reach out to you when we share the information with them. Brent, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chris, may I ask you to say or talk about the company, the U.S. Market Access, and also share with us your experience in Georgia?
Yeah, thank you very much. And again, thank you and the U.S. Commercial Service for putting all of this together. I'm going to see whether or not it will allow me to share my screen. If not, I've sent my slides along earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to have worked.
All right.
So good afternoon, good evening to all of you in Georgia. Good morning to those of you in San Francisco. I'm Chris Burry. I'm the co-CEO of the U.S. Market Access Center, USMAC. My own backstory is that I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've had a total of 9 companies. I've had 3 exits, a combined exit value of $1.6 billion. And for the last 10 years, I've been running USMAC with my partner, Alfredo Coppola. We began our journey with this belief that great people, smart people, amazing innovators, amazing entrepreneurs are, can be found anywhere in the world, but opportunity is not equal. And so we've been working for the last 10 years on how we can level the playing field. One of the ways that we do that, which was where we started, was by helping non-US tech companies get access to the US market, which is the largest market in the world. But we have grown and evolved dramatically since then. We have become, in many ways, what we call an innovation enabler. We don't just work with startups through acceleration programs. We actually work with governments and venture funds and angel investors and NGOs around the world to help create and build innovation ecosystems, not just to help the founders. Our belief is that our greatest value that we can do for these innovators around the world is to help them become truly great founders, to be able to optimize the outcome for them to be able to reach their full potential. And to do that, particularly when we are working in less developed ecosystems, just helping the founders are not enough. You have to actually engage in sort of creating the fertile field for the founders to be able to grow their companies. So we have added many of those kinds of services, and we're actually engaged in some of those activities right now in Georgia. I'm not going to go through our core team. We've got a team of experienced founders, advisors. I did some quick math in terms of our core team and our core mentors. We have 7 IPOs. We have about 12 billion in value creation across pretty much any industry and any sector. But what unites us is this common belief around that innovation can be found everywhere. We just need to help founders unlock that innovation. We've worked in a total of 45 countries in more developed markets. We are very active right now in the Eurasian region. I've actually moved my main operating base from San Francisco to Tbilisi. You can see the lovely background of the city behind me. If you've never been to Georgia, I'm going to give a little plug, Levon. You got to come. It is an amazing place. The hospitality, the way in which they welcome guests. I don't know how to say it in Georgian, Levon, but there is the expression, which is that guests are a gift from God. And that is an expression of the hospitality of the country. Have been welcomed with open arms. We're active across the region. I will actually next week be going over to do some work in Kyrgyzstan. It's going to be my first time there. But we've here to talk about Georgia, and USMAC has made a long-term commitment to helping grow the Georgian ecosystem. I'm now based out of Tbilisi. Other senior team members are now cycling in and out of Georgia 4 to 5 times a year. My co-founder, Alfredo, will be there next week. We've been deeply engaged with JITA, the government's information and technology agency. The startups in Georgia know this. We've been engaged with the grants program. We've run a sort of helping Georgian startups go global. It was an accelerator that we did in partnership with JITA and funding from the U.S. Agency for International Development. We completed one cycle of that. We have a second cycle that's sort of on hold because of COVID. We're also, you know, it was great for me to hear the other presenters talk about the importance of inclusion, because we also believe that diversity and inclusion are absolutely critical to the long-term success of the tech industry around the world, and also to solving the world's big problems. And we're pleased that we actually completed just a couple of weeks ago, we had to do it remotely, but a Georgian Women in Tech Accelerator with really, really fantastic results. We're very active with Startup Grind in Georgia, and for the you know, for the founders who are on this call in Georgia, if you have not already connected with me through one of the JITA programs or some other way, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. Love to get in touch with people. I've got a lovely house in Vaque, and you know, one of the things I want to do is, we're now getting past the pandemic, is have sort of, you know, some founder wine socials just to help bring the community together. We have a number of core programs that we run. We have what we call our Global Opportunity Discovery Program, which is to help founders figure out, do they actually have the potential to go global? A Startup Accelerator, which helps them explore markets for their global potential. We've run a really successful, what we call Scale Readiness Program, which is after you have started to find success. The reality is it's great. You've now got all your, you know, you've got good traction. Now you have to figure out how to grow your company, which presents a whole different set of challenges than building a product. And we are rolling out around the world our Women in Tech program. Core to our success is we have over 150 mentors, coaches, and advisors here in Silicon Valley across pretty much every discipline you can possibly imagine. Many super successful entrepreneurs. And the thing that brings us all together again is this global view of, we want to help the world's innovators succeed. Often get asked about the track record. How do you know that what you're doing works? At the top of our funnel, we've looked at more than 4,000 startups around the world. We've had 1,600 that have participated in programs. Over 2 billion in funds raised, that's disclosed. There's more money that is raised that we cannot disclose. We've had over 1.6 billion in disclosed exit value, and we have over 5 billion in valuation now that is still in private companies. And you know, we're quite pleased with the impact that we have been able to have over the last decade. And you know, smiling founders is what makes all the difference. So I'm just going to stop there. Great. And happy to answer any questions.
Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you for touching on Georgia's hospitality and how the country is moving forward. It would be just interesting just to follow up. You know, how do you see the startup ecosystem developing in Georgia? I mean, do you see changes and rise in more startups in Georgia since you've been actively involved there? And obviously, you must see it as a positive to having more startups. And you mentioned women entrepreneurs in different companies, which is a great kind of direction that Georgia is taking as well. So just maybe a brief comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, we've been active for close to 2.5 years now in Georgia, and it's hard to know about the volume of startups. It feels like there's more activity, but there isn't sort of a good measure that we are aware of. Other than the number of companies that are applying for the GITA grants program has gone up. But what we have seen is a steady improvement in the quality of the startups, both in terms of the quality of the founders and also, honestly, the quality of the ideas. That it's hard to come up with a really great idea. When we began our work, we saw a lot of what we would call Me Too companies. It's like, oh, we're going to do a food delivery service, or we're going to do something that we saw in another country, and it's not here in Georgia, so we're going to build it here in Georgia. And you can build a really good company, but if you try to think about, well, how am I going to scale that? Well, if you copied somebody in the big market, you're never really going to be able to compete with them outside of Georgia.
Right.
But what we're starting to see is these companies evolve that really have potential to scale. First, I would say typically regionally across sort of the post-Soviet Eurasian region. But we're starting to see companies come out of Georgia like Paisley that, that really have an opportunity to move the dial. And there was the first, what I would call, meaningful exit of a Georgian startup company, Pulsar AI, which was by a company out of New York earlier.
Who's here in California now and got position exit through a company, Spincar.
Yeah, and so we're starting to see the flywheel start to move, right?
Yeah.
The flywheel's not spinning, but we're seeing it start to move. There are still significant gaps, Levon.
Of course.
We still see there is a real lack of risk capital. There's plenty of capital floating around, but it tends to be private equity, and the private equity folks tend to try to invest in startups as if it's a hotel, and that doesn't, that movie doesn't end well. Stay tuned. We're working on fixing that problem.
I was going to say exactly. I mean, the main thing for our webinar is that the companies get exposure to the expertise that you guys have, and get recommendations and work with you to get that culture going within Georgia and get that to the companies. I mean, I think that it's a very valuable resource to have. So, I hope that culture will grow and become more involved in Georgia, the venture capitalist culture, and overall just seeing this new startup ecosystem develop in the country. So, yeah.
I mean, obviously, we organizationally and me personally believe that this is a unique moment.
No, I agree.
If we didn't think it was this kind of unique moment, we wouldn't have made both this corporate and personal commitment to,
sure,
trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Okay, thank you very much. Let me again thank you to all the speakers. This was wonderful presentations from you. I'm just going to rush through because I want to make sure that we get in a few questions to you that are coming from our attendees, as well as some of the questions that I've had based on our kind of presentations and based on what I've heard today. I guess I would start it out with one general question that I think would be interesting for foreign companies looking to expanding into the US market. Now, for all of, I think it's for all of you, I mean, having worked with the startups from around the world and providing assistance for the companies in gaining access to the investors, that are the key factors you are, what are the key factors you are considering when selecting or recruiting the seed stage startups for your programs? Like, what do you look for in a startup to identify the scalability and potential of moving from, let's say, a garage business to a global company? What do you see? And I think kind of I'll tie in my other question into that. What are the main challenges that you see from companies, especially from foreign companies, trying to gain access to the resources that you provide? And you have worked with a lot of companies. So what would be your suggestions to the companies listening in from Georgia? What do you look for in a company? What should they pay most attention to? Since we have Chris here already on the screen, so maybe Chris, you can do, and please, if you can, just be as brief as possible, but give us the information that would be useful.
Yeah, so I'll just make a couple of comments and allow others to jump in. The first and foremost question is, do we believe that they can create value for customers around the world? This is not just a Georgia problem, but it's a problem we see all over where we work, is that many times people are solving problems. Their startup is solving a problem that either doesn't exist in the US or other markets, or the problem is already well solved in the US. So we first want to see, have they actually identified a hole in a global market, or have they identified a hole in the Georgian market? The second thing that we look at is, honestly, it's a level of founder ambition.
So the team matters, right? Of course.
Well, the team always matters, but very specifically, if we ask a founder, well, how big do you want to be in 5 years? And the answer is, well, we think we can grow to $2 million. Right. That's not the level of ambition. But that's even a trick question, because sometimes their level of ambition is limited by what they think they can accomplish with the resources in Georgia. So it's a delicate balance, but I'll let others jump in.
Sure. Tara, may I ask?
Yes.
For you to?
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I actually would like to echo Chris's comment. What we like to say is traction prior to launch. And it's a really important aspect, especially in in the early stage, like in the angel or the pre-seed round, because oftentimes you are strapped with resources or the product isn't available quite yet. And so by keenly testing the US market, and by the way, we have a lot of tips and tricks and mentors that can help out do this at a very free or low cost budget, to in fact identify that there is a need, that it is a significant need, and that there's a pattern or an inclination for purchasing, then in fact that's validation or traction before even bringing the product here. And so, we understand how constrained startups are. We really believe in running experiments and testing the heck out of it before you make that huge financial as well as logistical investment.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Can we have Arsh?
Yeah, happy to briefly speak to that. So there's really two ways that we can think about vetting, one of which is peer-driven. So we have at any time 30 to 40 companies on site, and they drive a lot of these decisions. So when they look at new companies, they're asking, are you likely to receive value? So us as a community, can we actually help you solve the problems that you want to have solved? And contribution, are you going to be here and enjoy, and are we excited to see where our community will head with you in it? And that's sort of one factor that is changing based on the demographics of the audience. And then on the accelerator side, one other characteristic that we are thinking of for international startups is pipelines. So it's expensive to sort of set up these relationships. What we'd really love to have is a growing body and cohort so that we can have an entire space of a sort of mini startup embassy for a given country or a given vertical. And we sort of build out parts of our physical space around those communities. And so we basically ask the question of like, do you have friends who want to come? Because that would be exciting for us.
Oh, that would be great. I mean, consider Georgia as one of the places to do that. And Chris mentioned there is a Georgian Innovation and Technology Agency that has been leading the efforts of the creation of the innovation and technology ecosystem that Chris works with, and they have created a lot of techno parks in Georgia with labs and facilities and the co-working spaces. So we're trying to bring in and integrate the best practices from around the world, and again, having this discussion with all of you and sharing your expertise is very valuable for us. So thank you again. May I ask Joyce?
Absolutely, thank you. I'm going to echo what a lot of people have already said. So proof of concept is great. Having maybe a few customers is good. I think also a little bit that's been touched on, grit, really, having folks that can really kind of push and get things done. And then also coachability, that we have companies that are really willing to take feedback and ask deeper questions of themselves. Those are all really important indicators that they've kind of got what it takes to go further.
Okay, thank you. Brent, from your perspective, what do you look at when you select some of the companies to work with in biotech?
Most of all, what was just described here, it is around the passion for the science. That's what we're focused on. Then the founders, the personalities, and that grit, perseverance, and ultimately is the scalability, because we're here to help human health globally, and there's massive unmet need there.
Wonderful, wonderful. I don't see Serdar on the screen, but if you're okay, there he is. Serdar, what do you think?
I mean, I totally agree with my colleagues, and dedication is very crucial, and having a product market fit is another crucial thing. And besides it, we try to identify what exactly this startup needs to be successful, especially in the United States market. And we look into our resources if we have that particular resource, because it's a two-way street. If you don't have that need, I mean, if you're not going to be able to provide that resource, then it doesn't make sense. So another important thing for us is identifying their specific needs.
Wonderful, thank you very much. And I think one question that came in from the attendees that we can follow up to this as well was what are the business models that all of you can kind of talk about? The questions, I guess, is, do you become part of it? Do you take the equity when you work with the companies, when you provide assistance? Is that a set amount that they have to pay to go through some of the programs? So I think that would be really interesting for the audience to hear how they can, plan to participate in your or receive the services that you offer and the expertise that you offer, and how can they tap into the resources that you provide. So if just briefly you can talk about that from all of our perspective, that would be great. Maybe we'll start with Brent right now.
With regard to the equity in particular, we take nothing upfront from the companies. They come in, we provide all the resources, laboratory accommodation, and then it's equity on the incorporation side. We start at 3%. We believe to keep it single digits. We're founder friendly first, and just getting started also.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think that most startups like to hear that it's not, it's not somebody investor coming in and saying, I'm going to take 51% of your company. So yeah. Tara?
Yeah, happy to answer the question. BIM Startup, primarily our programs are free to the entrepreneurs, and that's how come it's open and opt-in and all online. And that's thanks to our annual sponsors. But how we engage into the startups is actually a little bit more unique. We will set up what's called SPVs, or special purpose vehicles, for that pre-seed round. And we get a % of a carry after your company exits on the profitability that your stock sells for. So we don't sit on the equity side. We don't have like a part of your cap table. The individuals and the entities that directly invest in you are the ones that roll up into the SPV, and the SPV sits on your cap table. But then how the SPV performs is basically how we get paid. So it's a super long play.
Okay.
It's pretty fun.
Thank you, Tara. And also during my introduction of Boom Startups, I mentioned that there are a lot of free programs that you offer, an online program to make sure that it's very inclusive. And the access to international companies, as I understand, is open. They can come to your website and
Yes.
work through you to access those free and free resources and some of the programs that you run virtually to get that connection, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're doing programs, in fact, in an hour from now that are open and online. The thing is that it is unfortunately in English. And then secondly, for the live events are more along the Western Hemisphere time zones.
Mhm.
However, everything that we do, we record and make available. So there's a whole bunch of content on demand. And that's how come we don't have a cohort similar to the other colleagues on this call as well. You can jump in and choose and learn about different funding and financial aspects about capital raising when it's appropriate for you, not for us.
Okay, understandable. We'll encourage the attendees to join the programs right after our webinar here. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you very much. And just to comment, the English part, just for everybody to know, in Georgia, and we kind of talked about that as well. It's not a barrier at all. I mean, we see the younger generations or even older generations that are everybody's. If not fluent, it speaks English really well and has the better understanding, I would say, than I would have in the terminology that is used in this space. Thank you, Tara. Let me ask Arsh to weigh in on this as well. Being from the university's kind of ecosystem, how the access for the foreign companies works and how do you participate on that side? Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the conveniences of being part of the university is that the institution thinks about this as a community investment. So we never touch equity personally. We set up plenty of connections with other investors, but we never touch that side of house. And as far as business model, most of it's essentially subsidized by the university. So we have less worries on that side of house. And the sort of vetting mechanism is as long as you can afford to pay for the space, which is at slightly lower than market rates, then you're welcome. And that helps us out for building out programs.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So it would be good for the companies from Georgia to reach out to you and kind of see where they fit within the programs that you offer. Joyce, could you also comment on that?
Thank you. So we run on a couple different models. One is fee for service and the other is sponsored. So corporate sponsorship of seats or programs is another way of doing things. We find that a lot of times early stage startups don't realize what an important resource their equity is. And they will sort of fritter it away to various places, frequently to mentorships and things like that, and sometimes to programs. And then when it comes to fundraising, they have a much harder time talking to investors. And so we don't want to see that happen to the companies that we work with. So we choose to go the route,
the fee-based programs that you were set fees and okay.
Or fully sponsorship. The other thing we find is frequently, even if it's just a little bit, if companies have just a little bit of money in the game, they're more likely to be engaged, and they're also more likely to stick it out through an entire program.
Okay, yeah, I mean, the more equity you take, I guess, the less motivation they have, right? I mean, so you got to make sure that motivation and that drive is not taken away from the companies. Understand. Thank you. Serdar.
Yes. I mean, if we don't make an investment, then basically we don't get any equity. Otherwise, there's a fee for service. But also we do offer scholarships for the training programs and everything.
No, I think that would be very interesting for the attendees. I mean, everybody jumps on the scholarships. Chris, would you say a few words how you guys operate?
Yeah, we're fee for service. but I would say 99% of our programs are all sponsored. You know, on rare occasions, somebody will come to us and say, we just want to give you money. And if they say that, we usually say yes. But, you know, our primary source is either government agencies that are tasked with supporting startups, government trade offices, as well as NGOs. I mean, we have done work for the U.S. Agency for International Development, for UN Women, for the UN Development Program, for the World Bank. You know, because our purpose, you know, we do work in more developed ecosystems, but our primary focus is, as I said at the beginning of my presentation, about leveling the playing field.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, in the places where we're trying to level the playing field, you know, the startups struggle to get any money. And so we do need, you know, we are more donor driven in that sense. But one of the previous speakers, I think it was Sardar, made the comment, we're all entrepreneurs ourselves, you know, and from our perspective, we only take equity if we put money in. You know, it's like, you know, if I want a piece of your company, I'm going to give you some cash, or if we end up taking a actual board seat, you know, and then we get, you know, the same equity compensation that someone gets for the board. But our belief is if you want equity in a company, cough up some cash.
Yeah. Makes sense for sure. And one point that I want to highlight here as well is that for the companies in Georgia, there are a lot of programs outside of, you know, the direct link with the incubators and accelerators, like Chris mentioned, like USAID that supports support programs, World Bank, and different organizations in Georgia that provide funding for the companies that don't have enough resources right now to tap into those the tools and use the tools and tap into the resources that you guys offer. So I want our attendees to kind of take a note of that for sure. And I'm sure that agencies, Georgia Innovation and Technology Agency does have access to those resources and to help them kind of fit in the right spot. So I think we're almost out of time. I don't want to hold everybody. I just ask maybe a last question regarding that. You know, we see a lot of startups coming up now. We want to see more. And with the creation of the tech innovation and tech ecosystem in Georgia, we see a rise in tech companies focusing on wide range of sectors. And we see a lot of companies, especially in Georgia, focusing on fintech, biotech, and artificial intelligence development. What do you see, just very briefly, what do you see as the primary sectors of development when it comes to tech startups? Are there leading sectors that most of the focus is on right now, basically throughout the world and in the United States? So, Brent.
I'll go first, then I need to excuse myself.
Sure.
Biotech, life science, healthcare, it's here to stay. So we all have a vested interest in this. Thank you, everyone. Best of luck.
Brent, thank you very much. We appreciate your input here. Thank you. Tara?
Yeah, I agree with Brent on the biotech. We have a huge community here in Utah, in fact, around that. However, productivity had a massive change due to COVID. And also, as everyone knows, there's a significant supply chain problem. And so I think there's a bunch of aspects when it comes to analytics, predictive, as well as productivity tools that will continue to see some massive trends. Last and certainly not least is telecommunications.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Thank you. Sardar.
Yes, I mean, I also agree that the biotech and medtech, especially the remote patients and everything, is kind of increasing after the pandemic. AI is another one of the hot sectors. Everybody's trying to engage with AI more and more. So those are the two areas.
Okay. Arsh?
similar ideas, but framing it a little differently. I think deep tech is really having a wonderful boom right now. Like 2000 to 2020, you saw a lot of let's apply something simple with software and take things over. And I think that's sort of dipping as meaningfully complex problems, biotech, AI, ML are really having their heyday right now.
Wonderful, thank you. Joyce?
Thank you. First of all, I'm going to apologize. Somebody is using a leaf blower outside, so if it sounds
We're
strange,
good. We're good. We can hear you well.
Those amazing Zoom challenges. So I agree. MedTech is very important right now, and as Tara mentioned, logistics and supply chain. However, I do want to point out frequently what seems important is driven by media conversations in some way, shape, or form, and you do end up finding a lot of companies that are trying to sort of stuff what's hot in the media into what they're doing. And that isn't always the best approach for all companies, I think.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
Yeah, I would echo, pretty much what everybody has been saying. The thing that I would add is what, is sort of some people call Internet of Things, other people call fog computing, which is this truly mass distribution of sensors and technology being pushed out to the edge. The amount of data that we will be able to collect will in turn drive all kinds of new applications and use cases and need for technology, both hardware and software. And I think that the people who master the edge right now, because they're going to sit on top of those data streams, are really in a phenomenal place, because I'm not the one who said it, but I agree with data is the new gold.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Again, we ran out of time. I wish we had more time to continue our discussion, but like I said, after this webinar, and I hope this is not the only one that we do, but afterwards, I strongly encourage the companies to reach out and have this communication directly with all of you. I would like to, again, thank everyone for the contribution to this webinar, especially our amazing speakers and their engagement for providing the information regarding the opportunities available here for the companies to tap into. Now, again, I'll just say briefly, we as a Consulate General of Georgia will definitely continue our collaboration with the U.S. Commercial Service here and with all of you, for sure, to make sure that we intensify the efforts of building a stronger partnership between U.S. and Georgia private sector. Now, I mentioned before the agency, the Georgian Innovation and Technology Agency, which we as a Consul General work very closely. And the agency I mentioned leads the way of the country in developing and further strengthening the innovation and startup ecosystem in the country. And we'll continue to facilitate collaboration between that agency and all of you and companies in Georgia. So again, thank you very much for your input. I want to thank our colleagues from the Commercial Service, our colleague in Ankara, Doug. Thank you very much for your contribution and for your support in co-organizing this webinar. Again, it is a pleasure to work with you all. And like I said, our doors are always open, and we'll make sure to be very active and stay in touch. Thank you again. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Levon.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.